Hello, this is Jenna, ESP with Philosophy, and today I'm going to share with you a short excerpt from my upcoming essay titled Natural Law Essay, a critique of Stefan Molyneux, Jordan Peterson, and Ken Wilber, which should be coming out very soon. And this is going to be the introductory section titled Metaphysics and Natural Law. Historical facts reveal that some of the most influential Greek philosophers, specifically Pythagoras, Parmenides, and Plato, made a pilgrimage to Egypt in the East to participate in the mystery religions, such as Orphic Dionysian and Eleusinian. They desired to gain the Hermetic knowledge of the metaphysical spiritual laws of creation. According to Plato, quote, "The ultimate design of the mysteries was to lead us back to the principles from which we descended, a perfect enjoyment of intellectual spiritual good." Unfortunately, much of these ancient works have been lost and corrupted due to the Greco-Roman Empire decline, the burning of the library in Alexandria, the Flavians' creation of the church-state through Constantine and Christian authority during what is appropriately called the Dark Ages. It is not a surprise, then, that during this time, prior to philosophical corruption, known as the Classical Era, spirituality and philosophy were joined, sometimes called the divine science, and then referred to as metaphysics, the term I will be using in conjunction with natural law. The pre-modern ancient philosophers desired universal truths and the knowledge of the unchangeable structure behind reality in the realm of permanence. They recognized the philosophical spiritual urge within each human to uncover the truth that lies behind appearances, to go from confusion to clarity and spiritual darkness into the infinite light, removing the chains of ignorance, to step out of Plato's cave, unplug from the matrix, and discover spiritual freedom. The classical thinkers correctly saw that, through divine reason, the lower nature and cultural beliefs that support false systems of power could be transcended by uncovering spiritual knowledge and our divine evolutionary purpose. In a sense, true spiritual reality is naturally occulted by the appearances of the immediate senses that tempt one into physical identification. At the highest level, though, matter is an illusion which requires the development of will and care, or truth, to transcend, as Plato emphasized. Ancient philosopher Heraclitus once said that, quote, "nature hides itself," end quote, referring to the fact that laws aren't immediately apparent, although once penetrated, they become obvious. But it is important to make the distinction that while natural laws can be obvious in a macrocosmic sense, its specific application in our individual lives requires constant evolution and refinement of the ego and shadow to de-occult relative development. The classical philosophers like Aristotle saw that, in one sense, we get closer to reality with mental abstraction, reflected in the law of mentalism, as one must transcend the identifications to matter and the material world to begin to understand the operation of metaphysical laws, being mental in nature. But there are two ways in which natural law is occulted. In addition to the natural occultation of the physical realm, in which truth discovery and revelation pierces the illusory veil, natural laws were deliberately occulted by individuals in the mystery religions. The mystery religions clearly understood that knowledge is power, and thus the false ideology of elitism arose, with its polar expressions. The light occultists desired to protect the masses from themselves, fearing what could happen if the knowledge got in the wrong hands, and thus they secluded the information for the so-called betterment of man. Regardless of this, knowledge did get into the wrong hands, and the populations had no protection against this. Through the secret societies, dark occultists, sorcerers, would desire to manipulate and control humanity from behind the scenes, and humanity's spiritual ignorance would help to achieve this. Besides occulting natural laws, the sorcerers would create an illusory control system and false reality through education, government, and political propaganda, the Matrix, like the puppet show on the walls of Plato's cave. The lesson to be learned by this is that no ends justify the means, and that to occult or hide spiritual knowledge from fear and pride is immoral and leads to evil, as today we are on the edge of a technocratic dictatorship in a global slavery system. Elitism ultimately creates cults of dominator hierarchies of power and control. Once you think you are a gatekeeper, you have become a controller. And while there exists levels and degrees of knowledge and consciousness, there are no levels of people, as depicted in the caste system, the class system, and all other elitist egotistical hierarchies, which are merely perversions of the real spiritual hierarchy that goes much beyond any conceptions in this realm. Elitism breaks down once we truly understand that there are always beings with higher consciousness than ourselves, as there is always higher to grow into in the relative, and that the all is the ultimate, not one particular level or degree of consciousness. While elitism leads to evil, egalitarianism leads to freedom because it provides the opportunity for one to advance by spreading knowledge freely. Knowledge is universal and should not be censored, withheld, or classified, as no one is above law and all are equal in the moral and spiritual context. In both forms of occultation, natural and manufactured, we must look beyond our five senses and the propaganda from the dark occultists to arrive at the underlying reality in natural law, bottom line principles and causal factors for why the world is the way it is and why our lives are the way they are. And this can be answered because the universe is mental. As a result of occultation and elitism, a left brain, reductionist, materialist style of philosophy popularized with culture, which is part of the dark elitists' agenda, obfuscating the original spiritual holistic impetus behind Western philosophy to know the great mysteries. Thank you. See you soon.